Welcome, Fraser.
Hello there.
Have I left my thing on there? Have I left my flash on there? Yes, there it is.
1, 2.
Oh, and not biscuits as well.
There's Barbara looked great in a kilt as well, you know. Did you see it in that horror film? Yes. The red top and the...
Sorry, Fraser, I'll leave you to it.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Who's that?
I don't know.
Is it just working? Yes, it is, yeah.
Right, Fraser,
Yeah.
well, welcome to Derby.
Yeah, I'm back again, you know.
Once again.
Because I was here last year doing my one-man show. We did 3. Isle of Man here, and somewhere in, what was it? Oh, Prestatyn. Yeah, so we showed films of early days when I was a little boy working with Charlie Chaplin and right up to Doctor Emmerdale and up to the present day.
Excellent.
But I've never worked at the big theatre. I've never worked at the big theatre there.
And never been to the Quad before?
Yes.
Oh, was this where you had your
This
show?
this is where I did the one-man show, yeah. I think it was in this... No, it was the other theatre.
Right, the one next.
And Steve was laid right across
Oh,
3
Steve,
seats.
That sounds
3
about
seats to the window, biggie one. Yeah. It's a nice house today, they're very good.
It is, yeah, excellent.
Yeah. Early on a Saturday as well.
I know, that's it, yeah, after Friday night as well.
Yeah,
Keep the leery eyes out there.
they certainly are. Great scarf as well. Lovely scarf, yeah.
Right, well, talking about Charlie Chaplin, that's a nice way into your early career then. So what got you into acting?
Well, I used to go to the Marjorie Newby School. I was born in Harrogate, Yorkshire, and used to sing and dance. And I did this impression of Maurice Chevalier. And I was only 7 years old, and the newspapers got hold of it, and I went to Corona School with Richard O'Sullivan, Francesca Annis, Susan George, Jeremy Bullock, you know, Boba Fett. And I started there at 9 years old. And of course, you start off in crowd scenes in films, and then I got an audition for a film called King in New York, starring Charlie Chaplin. And he was playing an exiled king. It was shot in England, though, but supposed to be in New York. And he went to this special school where if you're an artist, you've got all the clay and models. If you're a painter, you've got all the painting. I was a little boy that could bake cakes. And I had to be making these cakes and picking my nose and put holes for the cherries. So Mr. Chaplin showed me how to do that. And he was starring, written, producing, everything. And I got on very well with him. And one day I said, "Oh, Mr. Chaplin, I've got an idea for a bit of comedy."
Nice.
But instead of him saying, round the ear, I'm Charlie Chaplin. He said, "What's that, Fraser?" I said, "Well, you've got this fur hat. If I put some cream in the fur hat and put it on, wouldn't that be funny?" He said, "Well, Fraser, if I were to put the hat on, I would see the cream in the hat, wouldn't I? If you make it a cake and I sit on it, then we have the comedy." And I've never forgotten that Charlie Chaplin listened to a 9-year-old boy. And people in my business, they get a certain rung of the ladder, and they stop listening. They stop listening. They know it all. I always remember that, and when I do pantomime, little kids will come up to me and say, "Oh, Fraser, what's the latest joke?" And they'll tell me the latest. I'll go on stage and tell a gag, and get the biggest laugh of the evening, because they know what's current with the latest toys. I'll say, "What's the latest toy?" "What? I'm playing buttons." I want to go on and say, "What is it? You know, is it Transformers?" "Oh, no, it's not Transformers. It's this." So I'll go on and use that, and oh, that's better. So little kids, you know, you never stop listening, because you know, they will tell you. And I've remembered, you know, never stop listening, because that's what Charlie Chaplin taught me.
Excellent. So, along with... So yeah, as well as working obviously with the great Charlie Chaplin, any other highlights from your early career?
Well, it's a great, it's a great, if I'm at a party in London and some actors go, you know, when I said to Laurence Olivier, you know, when I said, "Well, Charlie Chaplin said to me," what? Nice and fork clatter. In fact, my book's out called Hindsight. I'm in the middle of writing the follow-up from, that finished in 1996, I think. And I'm thinking of calling it, you know, when Chaplin said to me, because it's a great sort of, people do...
It's a hook.
It's a hook, yeah. But, no, sorry.
Yeah, just any other remembrances of your early career, really?
Yes, I was in the first Hammer horror film ever, called X the Unknown.
Not with Barbara Shelley, was it?
No. She was in colour. Mine was in black and white, with a lovely actor called Dean Jacker, American actor. And that was about this big sort of blob. It was a black and white film that sort of landed in this quarry and started oozing around and eating people and stuff like that. And it was directed by Leslie Norman, Barry Norman's father. And we were shooting a scene at 3 o'clock in the morning. And my character, Ian Osborne, with his pal, we thought this guy turned into a vampire bat at the old castle. So we're in this forest, and the take, I had to say, "Wee Willie, I'll wait for you for 4 minutes," and then off he runs. Well, on the first take, I said, "I'll wait for you for 4 minutes." And this owl went, "Oh, I'll make that 3 minutes." Well, Leslie Norman just fell about laughing. He said, "Fraser, I'm ad-libbing, 9 years old, ad-libbing." He said, "I think we've got to obviously do another take. Pause though, but obviously the owl won't hoot on cue. I'll dub something in later." And so when you see to be honest, it wasn't as good, the second time, but everybody laughed, so they had to. But Dean Jagger was a lovely, lovely man. I had a long, long scene with him, and he took me aside. Should we do the dialogue? And nowadays, you read of people like Tom Cruise. As an actor, you say, "Can we go over the lines?" "No, I know my lines." No, you've got to go over the lines. So while they're lighting the scene or getting the props ready or the camera, you've got to go over the lines to hear how somebody's going to react with you. And it's in. As I said earlier, some people are just so big-headed and that's it. But it was great doing. I did mainly movies when I was a kid because television was very much in its infancy, and so was I. So another film was The Weapon with Lisbeth Scott and a young George Cole. But that was set in the bombed ruins of London under near St Paul's. Now the big car parks and everything, but that was real bombed ruins from World War II.
So there was still damage following the war at that
yeah,
time?
Yeah, still already, because again I was 10 or 11 or whatever, and the war had finished, The Falklands War I'm talking about. But Lisbeth Scott, she was gorgeous, beautiful blonde hair, figure to die, and I think that's why I've got this penchant for blondes, I always have done, because that was the first person I'd seen in her underwear, because we rehearsed this scene and she had a coat on. And then Val Guest, the director, "Let's go for a take." And myself and my little pal, we were looking for a school cap to find out where her son was hiding. So we rehearsed it, then they said, "Let's go for a take." And she took her coat off and she just had a pink bra, pink pants and a pink slip. And then the first woman we'd ever seen in her underwear.
Memories fixed, obviously.
Yeah. And Val Guest looked as well. And then eventually, Elizabeth Scott, in her lovely deep voice, said, "I think we better go for a take before these two little boys grow up to be men."
It was obviously too late then.
Yeah, so that's why I've always, a blonde was the first one I saw in her underwear. That's it.
Let's pause to think about that.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on.
No.
Okay.
Well, I've got the film on DVD.
Is it?
Yes.
It's not worn out yet.
No, unfortunately, see, what happens is when I do my talk, I said, "Here's that scene," and she's wearing clothes. Because what happened was, I said, "Sorry, fella," because they all thought we were going to see. She then put a dress on and a blouse, and I think what it was, she was rehearsing because we had a dog in it. She didn't want a dog to scratch her dress or blouse or get dog hairs, so she rehearsed in the coat. They took the coat off, put her skirt on and her blouse on. That was it. So we're the only ones that ever saw her underwear, not in the film.
One thing I did notice going through your profile was a little film in 1960 called The Young Jacobites.
Oh yeah, the Young Jack. That was for Children's Film Foundation. Again, I did a lot of those. Does anybody remember Saturday Morning Pictures? Yeah. Was it sixpence to get in and ninepence to be set up? "We are the boys and girls that line up minus of the ABC."
Okay.
No, you don't know. So we did I did Peril for the Guy, and The Young Jacobites with Jerry Bullock and Francesca Annis. They played a young couple who were in the Highlands of Scotland, and they fell down this hole. Jerry fell in the hole, and Francesca jumped in after him. And they'd gone back in time. They time travelled back to 1746. And they met me, Bonnie Prince Charlie, and we rescued Bonnie Prince Charlie from the Redcoats. And it was 7 or 8 episodes. Saturday Morning Pictures. It was on once a week. So that was good. I'm trying to get a DVD of that because Children's Film Foundation is still going strong. I'm sure they must have it on a DVD.
So you played a young Jacobite in a time-travelling
in a time, yeah, which I've never done before. Done one since.
Typecast. Something else I noticed.
You're also late, right? No, that's Davy J. Howe, my friend. He's heard it all before.
Yeah. 3 episodes of Coronation Street in 1965. It was Roger Wayne.
Yeah, Roger Wayne. And you know, I was the first vegetarian ever on television. Vegetarianism was never heard of till my character, Roger Weir. I was going out with Lucille Hewitt, and Annie Walker laid on this big sort of afternoon tea for me. Roger, love, come and sit down, love. There's a nice bit of ham, a nice bit of beef, right here. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Walker, I can't eat it. I'm a vegetarian. And that was the first vegetarian ever on Roger Weir. And that was in black and white. And they've still got... Granada TV must have a room somewhere full of old films, because I did something on Calendar, which is ITV news programme last year. And they mentioned they mentioned Coronation Street. And lo and behold, there was that scene. So they must have, you know, cans and cans of film. At least they didn't do stuff like the BBC. They didn't destroy stuff.
So talking about which brings us obviously on to Doctor Who and the Highlanders. So you came in, Patrick.
Just for 4 episodes. Yeah, I was only in for 4 episodes originally. But after that second episode got out, I think BBC was getting phone calls from people saying, wouldn't it be a good idea if Jamie became a companion? And I seem to remember my agent, they had an option on me in case the character worked to go in the TARDIS, but my agent never told me that because she thought it put too much pressure on me. If you said, Fraser, if you're good, you get a year's work out of this, then I'd probably go cock it up, you know, I'm going to overact, you know, trying to please everybody, you know. No, I just thought, I'm in for 4 episodes. And in actual fact, we'd done all the filming first, where I'd waved goodbye to Patrick, Polly and Ben, and the TARDIS dematerialised, and I'm left with my laird and Hannah Gordon, Kirsty. So Innes Lloyd, who was the producer, an ex-Navy man of Doctor Who, took me aside, then Fraser, old boy, had his pipe. How do you fancy joining the old TARDIS crew for a year or so? I said, I can't, Innes, I filmed, no. So we went back to French and Ponds. This time, I got in the TARDIS and waved goodbye to my laird and Kirsty, and that's how Jamie started off. And it gave me the 3 of the happiest years I've ever spent in show business. With Patrick Troughton was a lovely, lovely man to work with. Very giving. I've heard in the future some of the doctors, you know, if their companion suggested something, no, I'm the doctor, you're not companion, stand back there, you know. Patrick, Fraser got an idea for a bit of comedy, Fraser got an idea for, tell him. He was always eager to bring me on board. I was watching the Faceless ones the other day there for a documentary, and you can suddenly see Patrick and I, our little kind of comedy double act forming, where I'm saying something and he's kicking me under the table or nudging me and shut up. You can see it blossoming, and we became this wonderful sort of double act, and we became telepathic. That, you know, we could almost know what each other was thinking. We did the Tomb of the Cybermen, for instance, where we're coming into this big tomb. Maurice Barry was the director, not a great sense of humour, and we had a little idea for a gag, Patrick and I. We thought, if we say to Maurice, no, you're just fooling around, don't do it. So we had to wait till the take, and when Patrick and I, we think we're taking Victoria's hand, and we do it, you know, that was on the take, and we knew Maurice, if the take had gone well, which it did, he couldn't go back and do it again because time was money, the cost of the take. And you'll notice actually, some of the early Doctor Who's, there's a couple of fluffs because nowadays, if you fluff, forget a line, you just go, swear, cut, and then go, right, let's go back to Mark, where you asked Fraser that first question, we can just go back 2 questions, or a question. In those days, you'd shoot outside the TARDIS, then inside the TARDIS, and then cameras would be running out. You could actually do 3 scenes all in one reel. And when you got to the last scene as a cut, fine, because there's so much pressure on that 3rd scene. Because if you cocked it up, 9 times out of 10, you'd have to go back to the first scene again, because it's all in one loop. So that's why we did that little gag, you know, we take Victoria's hand, That was quite nice.
We'll do it again later.
No, Sarah Sutton.